Hello and good morning. I hope that your Thursday has been good to you so far. Thursday's a pretty good day because you're only one day away from Friday. And this week, here in the great state of Nevada, this Friday is when we celebrate Nevada Day. So if you maybe are lucky enough to get that day off from work, I hope you have a good time doing that. Well, we're not here to talk about holidays, are we? We have got a very special and very important announcement to make that we have been making and will continue to make until November 6th. And that is because starting on November 6th, we will be going to one service instead of two. And our start time will be 9:30 in the morning. You might be wondering, why are we making this change? It seems like a step backward. Actually, it's not a step backward at all. I believe it's going to help us to continue to make steps forward. And we must recognize that we made it through the COVID pandemic. A little beat up and a little scarred, sure, but we are here nonetheless. And that is a loud and clear message that we most certainly do have a continued purpose out here in Spanish Springs. We are making this change because we currently, as I said, have two services. And it never ceases to amaze me how one Sunday the 9 o'clock service will be full, but the 10:30 will have like two people in it and a couple of crickets. But then the next week, the 9:30 will have two people and a couple of crickets, but the 10:30 is full. We can never figure out who is coming when. And so it just makes sense to bring everybody back together for a while. What I really like about it is this is going to be less work on all of our volunteers who so selflessly have been giving of their time and their talent, but it also brings us back together as a family. The way we have set up our room, we could easily accommodate both services with room to spare. And this change will take place on November 6th, and our service will be at 9:30 in the morning. And if you have any questions about this at all, feel free to reach out to me anytime by phone or email or whatever. I'm a pretty easy guy to find. Or you can speak to any one of the board members about it. But that's it. November 6th at 9:30, we will have one service. I'm very much looking forward to that day. It's been a very long time since our entire church has been together. So, I don't know about you all, but in the morning is when I tend to graze over the day's news. And with so many news outlets these days, just you can't even count them. There's so many. And with the internet, you being able to access news from all over the world as soon as it happens, it can sometimes be a mental overflow with all the things going on. However, there was something that came up today that I think bears a little bit of repeating. And it's always good to look back. And as most of you know, I am uh, very much a fan of rock and roll music. I enjoy it. I've always enjoyed it. It's kind of my thing. I'm also a fan of rock and roll music history, and it was on this day or near this day, 45 years ago, that a plane crash took place that ended a legacy. That's the day that the airplane carrying Leonard Skinner crashed, and that changed the face of music forever. And they were only a big deal for a handful of years, yet they managed to not only change the whole face of music, they changed the world with their brand of southern rock. And it's always sad when we lose people tragically like this. But this hit the country pretty hard all those years ago. Now, I'll admit it, 45 years ago, I was about 3. So it's not like I remember this. However, having the benefit of being able to look back and investigate a little bit, it's easy to see the effect that these guys had on rock and roll and American culture. And I'm bringing this up simply because we all have the potential to make an impact. And we never know what our actions and our words are going to do. We don't know how the ripple effect is going to affect people in our lives and other folks that may not be in our lives for that matter. Little things that seem simple or maybe big things, who really knows? But I mentioned earlier that we made it through COVID, so we still must have a purpose here. And we are a small church. There's no doubt about that. And I think that's not only okay, I think it's great. I think that for too many years, small churches looked to the big churches, hoping to be a big church one day. And then when we didn't grow into a big church, there's a certain amount of negative feelings about that. And I think we've all been there. But over the past couple of years, what I've learned is that small churches, being a small church isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a very good thing. And if you look at our track record as a small church, we sure have had a pretty big impact out here in this little valley. And I think it's very, very important to keep in mind that the size of our church doesn't matter, but the size of our God does. And as long as we continue to love Jesus and love people, I believe God will continue to use us here in some very powerful ways. And I think that sometimes that makes me excited, and sometimes it makes me a little nervous because I never know from day to day what God may put in front of us. So thank you all for being part of this group of believers. And we have been talking about our budget the last couple of weeks, and I think that it is absolutely amazing that a church of 50 people in our giving up to the end of August we received like $92,000. That's a big deal for a small church. And that tells me that God is most definitely moving in our church and here in our little valley. So I'm very much looking forward to what God has for us in the coming weeks and months. And I wholeheartedly believe that coming back together in one service is going to help us do that even better. And so, as I said, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to me or one of the board members. However, if we don't hear from you or see you, we will most certainly see you this Sunday, either at 9 a.m. or 10:30. We still have 2 services for another week. So I hope to see you then. Have a great day. And yeah, that's all I've got for you today. See you next time.